Ashley Mahaffey asks, or Mahaffey. Bill, it's been well over a month now. It's time you weigh in on the Ghostbusters debacle and the underlying clash of ideologies. Yeah. I saw the new Ghostbusters. I knew they were making a new Ghostbusters. I didn't know it was all women until like a few days before I saw the trailer. And then I saw the trailer, and I don't think anybody in the country ever thought anything other than this is catastrophic. And it's going to be a catastrophe. It's going to be one of the biggest bombs of all time, and it's a slam dunk. How do you screw up Ghostbusters after what, 84, 94, after 30 years? I mean, it's like Star Wars. How do you screw that up? Well, you can, and I think the way you screw it up is by being politically correct. Is by showing how advanced we are, and virtue signaling on the part of the studio, and it's virtue signaling on the part of the director, and it's virtue signaling on the part of everybody else there. We've come so far that we're going to make this about women, and it'll be just as funny as the original, only it won't. And the reason it won't is because the original Ghostbusters was not slapstick, but it was physical and it was cynical. And when these women try to pull this off, I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I could believe that a guy who looks like not Eugene Levy. I'm really worried about losing my memory, honestly. He just died a year or two ago. Oh, I need a little dictionary here. My God. Second City guy was so. Oh. You'll get it. I could believe that guy was a scientist who could build, Harold Ramis. Thank you so much, Dave. Harold. I believe that Harold Ramis could build these things, these containment units, and these beam weapons. But I don't believe that the woman that they cast for this would do it. And I don't believe any of them. And I don't... See, this is the thing. It's not just Ghostbusters. I saw the trailer for Rogue One, and it looked like it was going to be really cool. And I see the thing, and it's like, oh, we're going to start a whole parallel Star Wars line. I get a Star Wars movie here. Awesome. And the first thing you see is the character, and you reveal, and it's like it's this young woman, warrior, mage, kind of ninja, pilot, assassin kind of thing. And I just said, yeah, I'm out. I'm done. I don't believe it. I'm not saying that those people don't exist, but I'm saying they're outnumbered by men by 10,000 to 1. And I don't believe it. And it's not just that I don't believe the casting. I think it is, in fact, a really poor decision to take what are essentially movies that are appeal to men or boys and cast them in the name of social justice with lead actors. I bought Finn, and I'm really, really, really worried about what's wrong with me today here. Rey in the new Star Wars movie. I bought her. I didn't like the fact that she was super person who has nowhere to go. She's never flown a ship before, and she's already better pilot than Han Solo, and she's never used a lightsaber before, and she's already better than a guy who's been practicing his whole life, and she's absolutely all powerful all the time. That was boring and kind of stupid, but she was a neat character, and I didn't have any particular problem with her. But when they bring out another parallel universe in Star Wars, and this one is this kind of teenage chick, it's exactly right. It's the Hunger Games. It's the exact same story. Again, it's the Hunger Games, and it's the what's that other series that they're doing where they have this. They've got like 4 or 5 of them now. I'm really out of it tonight for some reason. But I don't buy it, and I don't buy it, and I think that, I don't know, maybe these kids buy it, but no, lightsabers and AT-ATs and Divergent, thank you, and spaceships and all this stuff. This is primarily boy stuff. I'm not saying exclusively boy stuff, but it's primarily boy stuff. And when you take something that's primarily for boys and force women into it to prove a point, you're simply killing it. And they killed Ghostbusters. Women cannot deliver that kind of humor. there's just something about it. The thing about Ghostbusters that I think made it work was that it was, essentially Ghostbusters. I never really thought about this before, but Ghostbusters is basically Animal House with nuclear powered cannons, right? I mean, that's really it. They're four boys, grown boys, who are kind of lazy and kind of don't give a damn about anything, and they've got that sassiness, and they're just frat boys. They're four frat boys with laser devices and neutron traps for things. It's Animal House, meets Halloween, or you can't. That's the reputation that men have, is that they're kind of messy and they're kind of smelly. I was talking about this earlier. And they're sassy, and they don't really give a damn about anything. They don't care. The places, Ghostbusters headquarters is not like the inside of the wildfire complex in the Andromeda Strain. It's a frat room, and they're friends, and there's that kind of combat bonding. And when you force women into this, it just doesn't work. That's not to say that women can't be funny. Women can be very funny. I think one of my all-time favorite comedians is Maria Bamford, who is an enormous, gigantic liberal, but Maria Bamford is the funniest woman, and maybe one of the 2 or 3 funniest people I've ever heard. I just adore her. So I'm not saying that she can't do it. I'm not saying that science fiction is just for guys, Cheryl. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying, though, that if you're going to do a comedy that is essentially a buddy story, if you're going to do a comedy that is about that kind of don't give a damn sort of, pea in the hedges kind of thing, then you just can't do it. And it's going to be a catastrophe. It's a catastrophe. I bought, somebody mentioned Battlestar Galactica. When I saw Battlestar Galactica, and I thought, okay, they're going to turn Starbuck, they're going to turn the head fighter pilot into a woman. I thought, I don't know, it's not going to work. It did work. She was great. There was apparently the only episode I just couldn't bear to watch was she gets into a boxing ring and has a fist fight with Apollo, and I just couldn't buy that. But no, she was good, and so it's not a question of like, geez, no girls allowed. I just don't think that they. I don't think that they can pull off this kind of humor. I could see the lines, these kind of throwaway attitudes for the lines, but I couldn't. I don't know. It was a catastrophe. You saw it. Everybody who's seen the new Ghostbuster trailer just said this is awful. It's not even close to being funny or interesting. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. And that's ultimately it, right? I mean, that's ultimately what a movie's going to have to live or die on. Do you believe it? I mean, do you believe that a kid on a planet where they're harnessing, moisture out of the atmosphere wants to go off to college someplace, and then these people from the sky come and kill his family, and he picks up his dad's lightsaber and travels across the universe trying to, restore balance to the Force? Do you believe it or not? I did believe it. I did believe it. Absolutely did. I believed in the alien universe. I believed in Star Trek. I believe it could happen. But when you start out with this kind of, come on, and there's a lot of movies that are like that. Just come on. Avatar, for example, it's like we're going to fly, what is it, 6 trillion miles from Earth to Alpha Centauri? 6 trillion miles from here to there, and then you find out that these, the sacred tree of the Na'vi is under the biggest unobtainium reservoir for 120 clicks. Just think about that. We come 6 trillion miles to this planet, and we're going to destroy these people and destroy their homes, and we're going to make all-time enemies out of them because we can't go another 120 kilometers, which is what, 70 miles, 80 miles, something like that? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. And it's like, come on. The military guy was such a cartoon, and the business guy was such a cartoon. It was like, it's just bad writing. Just bad. And there's a lot of bad writing in Star Wars. We talked about that before. You've got this Phasma character who's supposed to be the super stormtrooper. Again, it's a woman. Okay, all right. She's a badass warrior, fine. And she's got her gun, great. But what do they do with this character? Nothing. As a matter of fact, it turns into an absolute coward. They put a gun to her head and says, lower the shield so we can destroy this ultimate weapon of yours, including you and everybody else on it. And she says, well, one of these days I'll get even with you. And then she lowers the shields. That should either be a spear carrier who's scared, or she should say no and either take the blaster shot to the head or call the bluff and show some courage and lock her away and bring her back later. Lazy. And Leia's performance when she found out that Han had been killed was horribly lazy. Losing the most popular character, arguably the most popular character in pop culture. You could make a case that Han Solo is the most popular character ever. You could make a good case for that. And to kill him for so little gain and with so little emotional resonance, to have it be such a meh, right? MEH, meh. He was killed by his emo son, who's in pursuit of a new kind of moisturizer. He just stabbed his dad in the back and he falls into a pit. Meh. I said this before in the Star Wars review. If Han Solo's going to die, Han Solo has to die so that the ultimate Super Death Star is destroyed. He's got to die to save the universe. He's got to die for something worthwhile. It's a throwaway. It was terrible. Same thing with Kirk, by the way. It was a pathetic death for James T. Kirk, fall off a catwalk and into a ravine on some unknown planet out in the middle of nowhere, trying to stop a guy from launching an Estes rocket into the sun. Just no. We know these people too well. If you're going to give us that kind of meaningless death, then have him hit by a bus. That at least is a statement. He's just walking along. He survived all these incredible hardships and people trying to kill him for 50 years, and all of a sudden he just stepped off the curb the wrong way, got hit by a bus, and he's dead. Okay, that's a point. But these things are just so wasted, the way they waste these moments. And as I said before, Leia's reaction is unbelievably awful. She finds out that the love of her life is killed, and her reaction is exactly the same as it would be if she'd opened an envelope and found out that her monthly cable bill was much higher than she'd expected. That's it. She should have broken down into tears, and the rock-hard general should have broken down into tears. The only thing in life she ever loved ever is gone. And she's like, oh, please. Terrible. So yes, I think the Ghostbusters movie is going to be a catastrophe, and I think they know it's going to be a catastrophe. And we all know why it's going to be a catastrophe. I had a feeling about this on the Wild Wild West. When I loved that TV show. I thought the TV show was terrific. Absolutely great. I loved it. And so they remake it, and now they're going to have Will Smith playing James West. And I'm sorry. If you're going to tell me that the Secret Service agent who's protecting General Grant in 1867 or 68 is a black guy, a smart-talking black guy on the Western frontier, I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. And not only do I not believe it, I believe that you're making me believe it, that you're forcing it down my throats in order to show how incredibly advanced you are. It was a catastrophe. That movie was one of the biggest bombs in history. And it was terrible. It was terrible. And you can't just... You can. I mean, they did, right? They did it with Ghostbusters. They did it with Star Wars. They did it with the Wild Wild West. But they're taking things that people love, and they're changing the essence of them. The Star Wars reboot, I thought I was going to hate, because in the first movie, the trailer for the first Star Wars reboot movie, you see Kirk as a young guy, and all he is a fighter, and he's riding his motorcycle, and as a little boy, he's running away from the cops, and he's just a rebel. He's just a rebel, and he's a rebel all the time, and he's such a rebel. And I thought, that's not Kirk at all. Kirk was described as a stack of books with legs at Starfleet Academy. But at least in the reboot, they showed that the reason this Kirk is different was because his dad wasn't around. He didn't have a dad. His dad died in this alternate universe, and that's why this Kirk is a rebel. His essence was still there, but it was much, much rougher and unfocused than the original Shatner Kirk was. And I love that movie because when... I didn't super love it, but the two Star Trek reboots I liked a lot because they gave me what I was looking for. I wanted James Kirk to be a certain way. I wanted Spock to be a certain way. I wanted Scotty to do certain things. I wanted McCoy to be acerbic and cynical. And I got him. And so I thought, great, super, this was fun. Now they're going to turn this next the next Star Trek movie, the third Star Trek movie, is being handled by the director of one of the Fast and Furious movies, and they're going to destroy the Enterprise again. If you destroy the Enterprise every movie or every other movie, it kind of loses its impact. When it got destroyed in The Search for Spock, it's like, oh my God. But, Enterprise has been destroyed a couple times since then. The Enterprise D was destroyed, and we're going to destroy the Enterprise in the next Star Trek movie, and they're going to be down on a planet, and guess exactly what it looks like. It looks like Fast and the Furious. You got guys doing jumps on motorcycles and driving cars around, and it's not Star Trek, and I think it's going to tank. I thought the Into Darkness was great. I really loved it. I thought Foghorn said he thought Benedict Cumberbatch was terrific as Khan. He was terrific. I thought it was a good movie, really solid, fun movie that was actually Star Trek. And the inversion of the plot from the original universe, the whole idea that there's a different universe, that the world has split off, that you knew one pathway, now we're living in an alternate universe. Anyway, it just, it worked. And when you hear Spock screaming Khan, and Kirk dying in the radiation thing, I thought that's actually beautiful. It's nicely done. Nicely done. But like Ghostbusters, if you wanna make a point and destroy everything that we loved in order to make your political point, then expect to do badly in the box office. And thanks for ruining my childhood. And the original three Star Wars prequels are appalling. They ruined that show, and J.J. Abrams brought it back. The last Crystal Skull, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, it's like not only was it bad, it actually, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull actually hurt the first three movies. It made them worse in a weird sort of way. I can't explain it, but yeah. This is what happens when you're being socially engineered by people who know more than you about what you want.